Yep, you lift a 250-pound man and throw him on his head. It's something. It's beautiful to me. I love seeing that, and that's the sport of Greco-Roman wrestling. That's why a lot of people like it to watch it.
Mesdames et messieurs, the greatest festival of our contemporary society, the Olympic Games, is about to begin.
This is going to be close.
Oh! They're all completely gassed! They've given it everything on the global bucket! Oh, yeah! No! Oh!
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant! But that is an Olympic championship.
Ready.
Hello, fans of Shuklastan, and welcome to another episode of Keep the Flame Alive, the podcast for fans of the Olympics and Paralympics. I am your host, Jill Jarris, joined as always by my lovely co-host, Allison Brown. Allison, hello, how are you?
We got 1 week to go. We got 1 week to go. Got 1 week to go.
1 week to go.
Please don't anybody be stupid in 1 week to go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't believe just like 1 week.
Like there's that little part of me that still feels like Tokyo is not going to happen. There's that little panic.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I'm like, how could it not happen now?
Right.
But we're still, we're hearing little stories of this person tested positive and this group's trip was delayed and this. So that pessimist in me still feels the panic.
Right. And that optimist in me hopes that once events start going off and they see the competition, that somebody in charge will just say, oh, we're going to allow some spectators to come in. I don't know how they would manage that, but it would just be like, oh, show up at the surfing venue. It's okay.
Maybe. Well, I'm more interested. Can we go back to talking about the heat again and just not COVID 24/7?
I don't know, because I do wonder, like, oh, heat talk would be great, but I would be complaining about heat talk too. Because every time we talk with somebody and we ask them about the heat, everyone is just like, yeah, we've been preparing for this. We know it's hot in Japan at this time of year. And it's like the journalists don't understand that athletes are a little smarter and are working with people and figuring out what the weather conditions are like where they're going to be. This isn't a mystery.
This isn't 1742 where you suddenly show up in a country. I do not speak your language. Like the missionaries showing up in Japan on their boats and not knowing where they are.
I don't know. I want them to happen. I want them to be good and happy times. And I want them to be safe. And I want them to... It's not that I want them to be over, but I want them to... I just kind of want to get beyond all of the gloom and doom that we're getting these days.
Agreed. I mean, something we talk about so often is we want it to be about the athletes. So let's get to where we're talking about this amazing performance, this new record, this story we didn't know, that part of it, not heat and COVID and everybody's worried and it's scary and overwhelming and who can't be there. And let's talk about the kids.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the kids.
Some of those kids are in their 40s and 50s.
Shut up. They're all my kids.
All right. So speaking of being focused on the athletes, let's get to today's interview. We are talking with specialist Alejandro Sancho, who is a Greco-Roman wrestler at the 67-kilogram weight class, and he's also a member of the U.S. Army World Class Athlete Program. We talk with Alejandro about how Greco-Roman works, whether or not manicures would make a difference, who to watch in Tokyo, and what it's like to dump someone on their head. Take a listen. Specialist Sancho, thanks so much for taking some time for us. We're talking about Greco-Roman. So Greco-Roman compared to freestyle, Greco-Roman's upper body only. What else distinguishes Greco-Roman from freestyle?
So freestyle, you could attack the legs. You could do inside trips. In Greco-Roman, it's more of close contact, a little bit closer than freestyle. Legs are going to touch, but you're going to get penalized if you do any types of trips or leg fouls or anything like that. Greco is more upper body, so you're grabbing onto the guy, getting into your hooks, and throwing the guy from feet to back, and that's 4 points. And then we do a lot of parterre, which is like ground game, where you get on top of the guy and you try to turn him to his back, and that's 2 points. So it's a little different than freestyle, and I think it's more physical, I believe.
Okay, you brought up the parterre. Does that happen at specific points in the match? Because that was when I was doing some research on that. That's one thing I didn't understand, why parterre got triggered.
So parterre usually gets triggered if you take somebody down when you're wrestling him, and then you can get your chance on top of parterre. It's usually 30 seconds, 20 seconds on top of him. And then if the match is 0-0, the referee would put somebody down to parterre, and the guy that's being more active throughout the match gets a chance to score from parterre position. And
matches are, make sure I have this correct, 2 periods of 3 minutes each, except for if there's like such a big scoring differential.
Yes, there's 2 periods each, 3 minutes each period, so it's 6 minutes.
But is there some kind of mercy rule with scoring if you reach a certain score, or you are so far apart in score that they just end the match?
Yes, if the opponent has 8 points more than you do, then it's called a tech fall. So the match is over. So if the score is 2-10, the match would be over. The guy that has 10 points would win the match.
So one of the things I see a lot when I watch wrestling is all the slapping. Is that more a free, where they're just sort of standing there and start slapping at each other like 2 kids in a playground? And is that more a freestyle thing, or how does that work in Greco-Roman, and why is that? Is that sort of just feeling out the situation?
Yeah, so it's more of feeling the opponent out. We call the slapping collar ties, where we tie up with the person and pretty much show the guy, we can control him, from a collar tie. There's a lot of snap downs in Greco-Roman as well, but there's a lot more digging. So the guy, it's more of chess game, where your chest is on the other guy's chest and you're trying to off balance him. You're trying to dig in for an underhook. Your arm trying to go into his armpit. There's a lot of that in Greco-Roman.
I'm sorry. I just had the visual of the arm and the armpit a lot. Not being very pleasant.
I wish my camera would work. I would show you guys, but camera doesn't work.
It's okay. We're a podcast. So is Greco-Roman more popular in one area of the world versus, because it seems like more U.S. and certainly more U.S. colleges focus on freestyle?
Yes. Greco-Roman is a lot more popular, I think, overseas, especially in European countries, because overseas there is no collegiate folk style. There is no high school folk style. So a lot of athletes overseas, they stick to one style. They stick to either freestyle or Greco throughout their whole entire life, ever since they was a child. While here in the U.S., we start off wrestling folk style, which is more like freestyle, but it's more scrambling, which transitions well for freestyle, but not Greco.
What attracts you to Greco?
So I started at a very young age, Judo. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Judo, but it's very similar to Greco-Roman wrestling. We have a gi on, and it's more of upper body. We're trying to throw the guy with arm throws and head and arms and stuff like that. And it's very similar to Greco-Roman, and you use your hips a lot. And I transitioned very well from that into Greco-Roman because I had that background.
Yeah, I was curious about how much of the judo skills transferred over to wrestling, and that answer. What other kinds of judo skills do you end up using that maybe your opponents don't necessarily have with your background?
So I had pretty much all the basics down for throws and stuff like that, while other kids here in America, they start off as wrestling folk style, and it's more of double legs, single legs, attacking the legs. While judo, I had the fundamentals down of actually grabbing somebody and throwing them and using my hips and body locks and stuff like that. So it transitioned very well into that Greco-Roman style.
Allison talked about the slapping earlier. I want to know a little bit about, there seems to be a lot of hand grabbing when you're
Yes.
first feeling out. And, why do you do that? Is it mostly to lock up each other's hands so they can't do anything? And B, how good's your grip strength? And C, do you break a lot of fingers?
So in Greco-Roman, it's frowned upon to grab the fingers. The referees will literally so they would caution you in a match if you're grabbing too much fingers. But in Greco-Roman, it's very utilized. You try to grab onto somebody. It's called a 2-on-1, where you grab his fingers and then you grab his tricep or his bicep, and then you control the match from there. Yeah, it's very crucial in the sport to have really good grip strength. So
See, now I want Greco-Roman wrestlers to paint their nails like really elaborately.
oh yeah.
So that we can see it. I mean, don't get acrylics or anything, because that would lead to a whole other level of injury. But like to make it really pretty. So, I see what he's doing.
It's pretty
That's for the
noticeable
YouTube channel.
when you're grabbing fingers throughout the match. I've seen some kids break their fingers. It's pretty brutal sport.
One of the things I wondered, how much do you know your opponents going into that, and how do you develop game plans? Because it seems like this is a challenging sport, not just physically but mentally, because you're just trying to find that one little weak link that will take your opponent, that you can use to take your opponent down.
Yeah, especially in my level, the senior international level, most matches are scored 3-2, 5-3. It's very low scoring. It's if you talk to a lot of Greco-Roman wrestlers, it's a chess game when you're wrestling, tough guys, because everybody's at the same level. Yeah, it's a chess game. You got to make sure you study your opponents, especially for the world championships, or me going to the Olympics right now. I'm pretty much have everybody already studied. I know what everybody does and what their specialty is, so I try to capitalize that to win the match.
So who else, obviously besides you, should we be paying attention to? What other countries, what other wrestlers are going to be interesting to watch in Tokyo?
In my style, in my weight class, we have Barrero, which is the Cuban Olympic champ, world champion as well. He's a really tough guy in my weight class. Surkov, he's a Russian, really tough guy as well. In my weight class, he's a past world champion. Everybody, my weight class is pretty stacked. Everybody's a world champion in my weight class. We have Egypt, Russia, Cuba. Yeah, we have a lot of tough guys in my weight class, but anything could happen in this sport.
So talking about weight class, we read Foxcatcher, and they talked a lot about cutting weight and making weight. And a lot of those stories were really a little gruesome. So how does that work for you? And how does that work at the Olympics in terms of when you weigh in? And are they making changes so that the wrestlers aren't doing these really dramatic cuts?
They did make a change a couple years ago, about 3-4 years ago. They used to be weigh in and then take the whole entire day off, eat as much as you possibly can, and then wrestle the next day. So now we have weigh in the same day and we wrestle the same day. So it takes that burden off of the wrestler, cutting a lot of weight before the tournament, and then, making it unhealthy weight cuts. So, I don't know. I never had a problem with my weight cut. I've been doing this for my whole entire life, so I know how to eat well before a tournament and get my weight down and run and sauna and do all that stuff to make sure my weight's good before a tournament.
And how much of a difference is there between your in-shape training weight versus your competition weight?
Not that much of a difference. It's about 6-7 kilos, which is about 12-14 pounds. And that's not a big deal to me because I have a lot of water weight that I carry. I drink a lot of water throughout my training, and that makes it easier for me when I have to cut weight.
I'm like, that's dinner for me.
You talked a little bit about learning other wrestlers' specialties. What are your specialties?
My specialties in a match would be getting to my underhooks, my pushing the guy, making sure the guy gets tired, getting to my positions, which in turn lead me to my throws, and just scoring and my parterre. Once I get the guy going throughout a match, he's going to start getting tired. The referee's going to see that. He's going to put him down in parterre, and that's when I finish the match right there. I have really good parterre.
In parterre, if somebody is on the bottom, why do we see them crawling around a lot?
So they're crawling because they don't want to get scored on. I'm trying to get my lock. I'm trying to lift the guy off the mat. I'm trying to gut wrench him. And the guy is doing everything in his power to not use his legs but just crawl, use his chest to break my lock. It's a lot of movement down there.
So in Greco-Roman, there's a lot of throwing people. There can be throwing people on their heads. What is it like to both throw someone on their head or get thrown on your head?
Oh, it's an adrenaline rush. That's why I fell in love with this sport. I threw some kid on his head freshman year of high school, and I fell in love with it. It's part of the sport.
Yeah, because there's video out there of Alexander Karelin, who's obviously different weight class, but just the fear that people had when he would just dump them on their heads. Oh my goodness.
Yep, he would lift a 250-pound man and throw him on his head. It's something. It's beautiful to me. I love seeing that, and that's the sport of Greco-Roman wrestling. That's why a lot of people like it to watch it.
But is it beautiful to your mom?
Yeah, she's the one that encourages me to do it. So she's been around the sport for a while now.
Yeah, I was going to say the moms of wrestlers I find fall into two categories. Either they are the ones,
Terrified.
that I would fall into and couldn't watch, or they're the ones screaming, "Kill him!"
Yeah, that's my mom. That's my mom right there.
I like.
See, my grandma.
Already.
My grandma is different. My grandma would never ever go to one of my tournaments. She doesn't like to see that. Oh, my mom, yeah. My mom's totally a fan.
So you are in the U.S. Army. How does that work with your training and your professional commitments? How does that all come together for you?
It's the best program, I think, in the world. The best Greco-Roman program we have right now is in the Army right now. And, I can't thank them enough. I was struggling before I came into the Army financially and found out about this program. When I actually before I found out what the World Class Athlete program was, I actually wanted to join the Army because right after college, I was at the Olympic Training Center for about a year, and then didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life, and I wanted to get into law enforcement because I was a criminal justice major at Northern Michigan University. So I thought joining the Army and pursuing a military police MOS would be a good choice for me. And then I found out about the World Class Athlete program, so I could be doing both those things, and signed up right away.
What does it take to get into that program? Do they have a selection process, or how does that work?
I believe any soldier could do it. It's definitely, you have to be an elite athlete to do it, and you have to be specific to your craft. So if you're a boxer and you're in the Army and you want to do it, I think there's all Army camps that we do every year where it's like more of a camp, a 2-week camp where they do like a recruiting process. We do that in the wrestling program. And I found the World Class Athlete program when I was training at the OTC. They came up to train there, and then I met the coaches there, and they explained to me the process of joining, and I ended up enlisting after that.
Yeah, one of our past guests who does modern pentathlon is also, I believe, part of that program because she is also in the Army. But it seems like such a beneficial program and a very good structure to allow you to both get the training you need and not have to worry so much about other elements of life, like i.e. finances and healthcare, which is a problem for athletes in small sports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went through the basic and I went through AIT, so I'm my specialty is military police, and I've gone through all that, and I'm a soldier athlete. It benefits both me being an athlete and me being a soldier, so it's a great program to have.
So, being an elite athlete, how was basic training?
It was fun. I had a great time with basic training. Actually, I learned a lot. The drill sergeants found out who I am through the internet, and I was taken care of in basic training pretty well.
Right, and if anybody got a line, they would just say, "Oh, excuse me, could you just come throw somebody on their head? They're causing trouble in the barracks again."
Yeah, I was number one for combatives. I was doing all that stuff, and it was a great time. I had a great time with basic training.
I want to ask, what didn't we ask about Greco-Roman that you want people to know about?
Greco-Roman? I don't know. It's a great sport to watch. I'm not sure. It's a broad question.
Good question. That's fine. No, so, whenever it's a sport that we're not terribly familiar with, sometimes we don't even know what we don't know. And so I like when it's a sport I really don't know to say, did we miss something super important about watching it, or about the competition, or about something that is so exciting for you as an athlete that we as spectators would miss otherwise?
Yeah, so in the sport of Greco-Roman, you have to, this is a lifelong sport. These athletes that are in this sport have committed their whole entire life to this sport. They've made so many sacrifices, and you see it at these tournaments. There is highs and lows in this tournament. And when I won the Olympic trials, I had my teammate, unfortunately, Ellis Coleman, that was in the finals with me as well, and I ended up beating him. And it was a very high for me, but a very low for him because he ended up losing. We were both teammates, and it's a beautiful sport. I think the techniques that we show during a match and all that stuff, it's I don't know, I can't really explain it too well, but it's beautiful. I love watching Greco-Roman wrestling. I love watching wrestling in general, freestyle, folk style, all those sports.
One thing that is so exciting about wrestling too is this. It can look like it's very slow while you're feeling each other out, but once you find the weak link in an opponent, or the opponent just caves for a second and you can take advantage of it, it's very fast, and if you blink, you missed something super big. How do you develop that speed and balance it with such strength?
It's a lot of repetitions. So I've done over 1,000 arm throws. I've done over 1,000 head and arms. I've done 1,000 body locks. It's all muscle memory in Greco-Roman wrestling, and developing that quick touch. So that's all done in practice. You're in there doing repetitions. You're in there lifting. You're in there working out every single day, twice a day, and it's a lifelong commitment. You got to be doing this for about 10, 12 years to actually start figuring out what Greco-Roman wrestling is and how to wrestle.
When you put it in that context, there's some sports where you can pick them up very quickly, but learning that technique and building that strength just takes years and years to get on top. So this is a nice culmination of the work you've put in. So when do you head over to Tokyo? And what is that process like in wrestling? Because I know in other sports, they're like staging things to kind of get over there in stages.
Yeah, I believe Team USA Greco leaves July 17th to Tokyo. We're going to have a 2-week acclimation camp there, pretty much getting our weight down. We've done all the wrestling already. It's pretty much getting acclimated to the environment, getting our weight down, and pretty much the mental game. You're making sure you're mentally prepared for the big stage, the Olympics in August. My tournament will be August 3rd, I believe. August 3rd and August 4th.
Getting prepared mentally, how do you do that? Is it more shutting out the rest of the world?
Pretty much. It's making sure you're shutting out the world. Yeah, that's a good one. Doing meditation, studying my opponents, pretty much mentally seeing myself at the Olympics, wrestling these guys, and just making sure I'm mentally prepared, making sure everything's right, I'm eating right correctly, my conditioning's right. It's all part of the mental mindset game.
Now, you compete indoors, but the heat in Tokyo is, well, there's a lot of heat and humidity in Tokyo, but you're from Florida, so this is not a problem. You'll be at home, right?
Yeah, it's just like home. It's going to be summer over there. It's going to be humid. That's my type of environment. That's where I thrive. So it's all looking pretty good for me. It's looking pretty good.
I don't know if the bugs are quite as big in Tokyo as they are in Miami.
I'm not sure. I've never been over there, so it's going to be a first time for me. So hopefully not. I don't like bugs.
How can you not like bugs and be from Miami? Come on.
I don't mind the mosquitoes, but then the bees and the hornets and the really spiky things I don't like.
I just want to say, though, I do want to possibly watch your match on a live feed with your mom, because that would be fun.
That would be awesome. She'd be screaming.
And your grandmother and the whole clan. Because I'm sure they're going to all get together and watch at like 3:00 in the morning or whatever time the time difference is going to be. That would be fun. Yeah,
they're probably going to be doing a watch party in Miami with the whole entire family and all my friends down there in Miami.
Nice.
That'd be fun.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Specialist Sancho. We really appreciate it. I know it's tough taking some time out, but thank you for helping explain your sport. Thank you so much, Alejandro. Alejandro competes on August 4th, so be on the lookout for his competition. When we were talking about cutting again, because that is one of the things we like to talk about with weight class sport athletes, and he said he doesn't have to cut that much. It's just 6 to 7 kilograms. Which to me is a lot, but then he's like, well, it's mostly water weight. Which makes me
love to have 6 to 7 pounds of water weight that I could just, let go of in the bathroom, so to speak.
Sit in a sauna and have that all just come on out.
Speaking of Tokyo, if he needs to cut weight, he can just sit outside.
Yeah, that's true.
Sweat it out, man.
All right, before we get on to our other segments today, we'd like to thank our Patreon patrons. They are the ones who help us keep this show afloat financially, because we do have a lot of bills to pay, and we do have some on-the-ground coverage in Beijing 2022 to cover money-wise. So if you would like to support us as well, check us out at patreon.com/flamealivepod.
Welcome to Shukflastan.
It's time to check in with our team Keep the Flame Alive. These are our past guests who make up our roster of Shukflastanis. First off, race walker Evan Dunphy has a new sponsor.
Speaking of not cutting weight.
Oh, this is the best. His new sponsor is Kraft Dinner. And if you're not familiar with Kraft Dinner, you might know it better as Kraft Mac and Cheese, which I think is just the best thing, because as Evan said on Twitter, today I got a sponsorship with Kraft Dinner and then got a 15-kilometer personal best in training. There are no coincidences. I mean, if you're walking 20 or 50K, you probably need some Kraft Dinner in you.
And here's the thing. Evan Dunphy is a ginger.
Mm-hmm.
Kraft macaroni and cheese is the food equivalent to a ginger. I see the connection.
There we go.
As Evan says, there are no coincidences. Roy Tomizawa is featured on a CBS Sunday morning piece about recapturing the magic from the 1964 Olympics.
And we will have a link to that in the show notes.
And artistic swimmer Jacqueline Simoneau was on Radio Canada to talk about her preparations for Tokyo. I think they're there now. I think they're in Japan.
So exciting. Just a reminder that even though Tokyo 2020 is going to happen, book club is still coming up, and it's a great time to get our next selection called 7-7 by TKFLASTANIs, Ben Ryan. It's about the Fiji men's rugby sevens team and their quest for gold at Rio 2016. And it's an excellent read. I am mostly through it. I am so excited to watch Fiji compete at Tokyo, and you will be too. You can get 7-7 at bookshop.org/shop/flamealivepod. We get a commission from books purchased through our link that helps us pay those bills that we keep talking about. So please support the show that way with your book purchases. So TBach is in Tokyo, and
it's like the atmosphere sunk into his pores.
Exactly, because he did have an Uncle Yoshi moment, as we like to call them. When you go, oh, Uncle Yoshi, I cannot believe you said that, because he slipped up during a speech and he called the Japanese people Chinese. And that did not go over well. The Associated Press reported this. And he said, our common target is safe and secure games for everybody, for the athletes, for all the delegations, and most importantly, also for the Japanese people. TBach said, well, he caught us.
He slipped over the word. I am totally giving TBach a pass on this for two reasons. One, he's speaking not a native language of his own. And two, he's talking about Beijing 2022 at the same time. So he's got Japan and China on his brain.
So the interpreters did not interpret the mistake, but enough people who were in the know caught it, and of course found its way to social media where it was a big thing. So hopefully this is just the only time that there will be a slip up like that. TBach has also met with Prime Minister Suga, and they apparently had a very nice meeting. And additionally, the IOC reported that the Tokyo Organizing Committee said there have been about 8,000 people who have come into the country in the first half of July, and only 3 have tested positive for COVID-19 after arrival and were immediately isolated. And I think that's those are the stories we hear about, like the Serbian rower and the Ugandan athletes and coaches that had that happen to them. So I think the IOC is trying to say, hey, yeah, we're hearing about all these people who are showing up with COVID, but know that a lot of people are showing up with no COVID. I think they're trying to keep a perspective on that. That's really hard to keep in a time of social media, and we all want to have the bad news lead. But that doesn't mean that people aren't still getting exposed. So the Asahi Shimbun reported that the South African rugby sevens team has been exposed. The refugee team got exposed. And where were they exposed?
2 coaches tested positive before they left Qatar.
Oh, okay. The Brazilian team members were exposed at a hotel by hotel staff who were positive. And kind of like, what do you do with this now? Because there's no real way to keep everyone in a bubble unless you have every staff member suddenly not be able to go home for 2 weeks if they have to quarantine. And there's just no space for that, I think. It's going to be tough.
We just got to hope. We got to hope. Keep our fingers crossed. Hope people are doing their jobs.
Mm-hmm. The Kyoto News reported that the Olympic Village is open and athletes have begun to arrive. They don't have the usual fanfare welcoming ceremonies that they used to get, which is kind of, that's one of those things that I understand why it has gone by the wayside for this Olympics. It's still kind of, it's sad that doesn't get to happen. I've seen pictures where different balconies are decorated with flags for different countries. So that's really cool. Or if there's one for Japan and they have several floors. So on the whole look of the balcony is the rising sun of the flag.
Yes, I saw that.
That is very cool. I do want to note, we still have 1 week to go. And I understand that some sports kick off before the opening ceremonies starts. But as we are taping, we are still more than 5 days away from any sports happening. And athletes aren't supposed to arrive until 5 days before. So what's up with that?
Oh, you mean who the athletes are that are arriving in the village?
Yeah. But it doesn't even matter because the Kyoto News reported and also Inside the Games reported that athletes were arriving. The Inside the Games story came out on Tuesday, July 13th. And that is more than 5 days before the softball tournament starts or the football tournament starts. Why are there athletes in the village now? Because they're not supposed to be.
Yeah, interesting. I hadn't even done the math. As we know, I have trouble with math. So.
Well, I was sitting there
I also have trouble with time zones, so I clearly don't know what day is happening.
Yeah, but still, it's just one of those like, huh. So what, I do wonder how much of what's going to happen is theater and we're telling a nice story versus what's going to actually happen. So we shall see. I kind of wonder if some of these ceremonial things or different events will sneak back in. We've got opening ceremony news. Japanese Emperor Naruhito is likely to attend the opening ceremony, according to the Kyoto News, and he should be declaring the start of the games, but lots of foreign dignitaries don't plan to come.
Good.
In a way that's kind of interesting. I know you have opinions on this because the U.S. has said that Dr. Jill Biden may be the USA representative at the games. Thoughts?
If fans can't be there, why can VIPs be there? Because Jill Biden, as vaccinated as she is bringing a staff. She's not coming by herself flying coach, right? She's got to bring her staff. She's got to bring her Secret Service detail. That is a lot of unnecessary people. And I understand the importance of VIPs showing support, but Dr. Biden and her entourage should stay home.
Well, and it's not like the other VIPs who will be there don't have entourages either. I mean, Macron,
appropriately so.
Right.
They've got to travel with security. They have to travel with the staff. I mean, that's appropriate, but it's not appropriate for them to go when all the Japanese fans can't even go to see the events that are happening in their own city.
Right. It is. I do agree with that. It's interesting because this is also a missed opportunity for diplomatic meetings to happen with Japan and other countries. So you lose that as well. More fun news. The Team USA revealed its opening ceremony outfit, and our TKFLASTANI Connor Fields appeared on the Today Show to model the flag bearer's outfit. Which, did you see this?
Team USA Ken doll.
The Team USA opening ceremony uniform has a blue blazer, and the flag bearers has a white denim jacket.
With a fan in it.
Oh.
There's a fan in the jacket.
Oh, okay.
So that it cools them off. No, I didn't mean like a person that they're hiding to cheer for them, like actual cooling device.
I thought you meant like a paper fan. I'm like, how are they going to hold the flag and then just like whip out this fan to fan themselves off?
No, in the back, in the center of the denim jacket, there's the silver dot, and it apparently is some kind of cooling device because the outfits have jeans, a knit shirt, a scarf, and a jacket. And I'm thinking, that is hot. And it's dark. It's all dark blue in the regular uniforms. Oh, thankfully not too many Team USA will be marching because they'd be passing out. It's a hot outfit.
There are other opening ceremony uniforms that have been released, but we have not talked about on the show. But they are very exciting. So first up is Czech Republic, which...
Not hot?
No, not hot. It's reminiscent of a folkloric costume.
It's a white skirt. It's a blue top or white pants.
The blue is indigo that's dyed in a Japanese tradition. And the blue portion of the uniform has a print on it, which is...
a flower and the Czech symbol for gymnasts, which is supposed to be Vera Kozlowska, who was the gold medal, at that time Czechoslovakian gymnast, who won in 1968.
And they have a little fan with the same print on it. It's very nice.
It's a beautiful combination of traditional Czech things and Japanese cultural references. And more importantly, it looks much cooler.
And denim.
Oh.
And we've also seen
Have
them.
you ever worn jeans when it's really hot?
I don't wear jeans when it's really hot because they're hot and it makes me hotter. Although,
I know, and then well, there you go. You cut weight.
yeah. We've also seen Mexico's uniform, which is navy, and it's kind of the women have a skirt and the men have pants, and there's a blazer, but the blazer, one of the lapels on the blazer has 4 flowers on it, and it's looks very folkloric and traditional and vibrant, and then the lining of the jacket is also in this flowered pattern. It's very cool looking. I'm very excited to see the opening ceremonies costumes. I'm also excited to see who gets to march.
What kind of numbers you mean?
Also in news, there are changes to the Olympic oath that I think we talked about this when we talked about Rule 50. So that will include an anti-discrimination clause to it. Inside the Games reported that the medal ceremony is going to be a little bit different this year, where usually a dignitary puts the medals around the athletes' necks and gives them a little handshake and maybe a little cheek kiss. But this year, the athletes will give the medals themselves, which, okay, so somebody's going to have them on a tray, and that person will be wearing gloves and everything will be disinfected. And they will present the tray to the athletes, and the athletes will pick up the medal and put it on their own necks. But there's still going to be proximity with the person on the tray.
This just made me think of, talk about obscure historical reference. Napoleon crowned himself emperor. And I just feel like it's going to have that bit of self-aggrandizement to it when you put the medal on yourself, though a lot of events have done that this past year.
Right.
But it still looks strange.
And it's been it'll be interesting to see what teams do, because I've seen medal ceremonies that have been very nice where maybe the captain or one person of the team presents the rest of the medals to the other team members. And that's really kind of neat. But I've also seen where the medals they've been kind of walked in by the traditional people who would be presenting the medals, and they've been put on a table, or the table is already staged. And then the athletes just walk off and take the medal off the table and put it on themselves. I feel like it's the whole, more of the theater again.
This is the perfect opportunity for Japan to show off its robotics prowess.
Mm-hmm.
Have a medal robot.
Would be fantastic.
Have a robotic TBach.
Oh.
His little glasses and his little Olympic tie.
Can you imagine what that would be like?
That would be fantastic, is what it would be like. What are our opening ceremonies outfits going to be?
I'm going to have probably my Team Sammy shirt on.
Excellent choice. I've got to work on that. I'm not quite sure. I need thoughts. I don't know.
You know, speaking of getting ready for the Olympics, we are putting the finishing touches on an ebook that is our viewing guide for watching the game. So it'll have a day-by-day schedule at a glance as to what time things are on and if it's a regular competition versus a medal competition. We also have most of the matchups up there and a little bit about the sports. So look for that on Amazon. We will be promoting that over the next week. And that's going to do it for this episode. Let us know if you'll be watching wrestling during Tokyo.
Email us at flamealivepod@gmail.com. Call or text us at 208-352-6348. That's 208-FLAME-IT. We're Flame Alive Pod on Twitter and Insta, and keep the Flame Alive podcast group on Facebook.
Monday is the 25th anniversary of the opening ceremonies of Atlanta 1996. So we're going to have a discussion on the impact of those games on the city as we go out to music by Mercury Sunset. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, keep the flame alive.
Sometimes you think that you are in a movie. I start the recreation of what's inside.
we are looking at Greco wrestling with a specialist.
Whoa.
What did I say?
Greco.